Okay, uh, Jeff, you want to call the roll and let's get this meeting going.
And welcome, Mr. McCarty.
Thank you.
Commissioner Martin.
Present.
Commissioner Shelton.
Here.
Commissioner Abbott.
Here.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Here.
And Commissioner McCarty.
Here.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Good. Now you get to find out how the rest of us deal with this development stuff.
Hi, Lisa.
Okay, I think we're going to start with our North Park TIF. Jeff, you want to bring everybody up to date and make sure we have all of the signators we need on documents lined up?
I think Colin McCarty and I had a conversation, so I got him up to speed before this meeting, so I think he's pretty much aware of where we're at. So I won't go into a tremendous amount of details because I know some people have to leave this meeting a little sooner than later. So I think where we're at with the TIF discussion, we need, I think, Richard, I think I sent you one additional item to be signed.
The arbitrage and tax representation certificate. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the secretary, Lisa Abbott, has signed and returned it, although it is a little funky at this point. We'll get that figured out and presentable. Okay. And so that the council approved the bond. And I think we're set to close next week on the 23rd. Hoping to get all the signatures done this week as I am supposed to be off next week. So the bulk of the signatures are for the county commissioners and the auditor, and I think we've got those well in hand. So I don't think that, I think having them all will be not an issue. I am meeting with Mr. Kreider and bond counsel and financial advisor tomorrow. In case Steve has any questions and just to make sure we are all on the same page for closing. So that this should be closed next week. I think the second part of the TIF discussion, and I'm by the January meeting, I should have this year's housing numbers for Bloomington Township as well as Richland Township. I think I reported in the last meeting that it would be a miracle if Richland Township was not over the 1% annual average, but it would also be a miracle if Bloomington Township was. So I think we would focus in on Bloomington Township and for the review of a residential TIF area in that part of the North Park TIF.
Right.
And I think once we get that focused in on, I'm going to have Jared, our GIS specialist, put together a map that shows the Bloomington Township TIF, kind of that heat map. Where is the current assessed value? One of the concerns I had with the past map is that a lot of that increment wasn't, in some of those areas, they were colored and it wasn't due to any kind of improvement. It was just due to the roads being there. And so I think we'd want to look at what has a improvement on it as opposed to just the roadway, because I think that's where the growth would occur. So I think I'm going to work with Jared to get that to you guys for the January meeting, and then we could have a good discussion with all that information going forward.
So all you need from me is a signing on page 9 of this certificate.
I believe that's the page.
Okay. All right.
And
I can
Jeff,
just sign it and fax it to you, or
Yeah, you can scan it and email.
scan it and email it. Okay.
They will accept electronic on 90% of the document.
Yep. Okay.
so Jeff, you got my information that I sent you when I first got it
I believe so.
to go ahead and sign it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I can't do anything with my computer to send you that, so I'd have to come in. I could come in if necessary.
I think we're set for that.
Okay, good.
Any further discussion about the North Park? Oh, did you, Jeff, did you get a chance to look at that one property on the east side of 69 that I had mentioned?
I didn't, because you described it as being annexed prior to the issuance of the first debt.
Yeah, I
And
think that's
therefore,
true. I think that's true.
And I think it was annexed in 2004, and we didn't actually issue a bond anticipation note till 2005.
Right.
So that annexation by statute would have removed it from the district.
Right. We should at some point check that to make sure that my reading of the stuff is correct.
Okay.
And the recording of that is correct.
Yes.
Because it's a big chunk. Okay. Well, we should be able to see whether it's on any of the previous. We could check the parcel number and see if it's on a previous report. I guess that's one way to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Lisa Ridge, given that we do the bond on the 23rd, when do we design the road extension, or is that going to happen next year?
Yeah, you'd probably need a full year to do that. So is that going to fall? Is that Steve Kreider going to hire an engineer, Jeff, to do that?
I believe so. I think we need to play a big role in that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely have Paul involved in everything, but yeah, we could work with whatever engineer, and I'm sure they would probably hire local, and we could work with that engineer to make sure it's built to county specs. So, yeah. But you could pretty much figure a year for design, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Sounds
Thanks.
right. Well, we won't pay for it. I won't sign the voucher unless it's to county specs. Solve that problem.
And we don't have to accept it.
Right. Okay. On to our claims. Jeff sent out a revised claim form just before the meeting.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Nobody, you haven't seen that yet?
I have. It just adds the 3 bond payments.
Right.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and read through things here. There are 2 claims from DLZ associated with the Profile Parkway construction and another one for Vernal Pike Connector. The Profile Parkway construction is $675. The DLZ right-of-way management for Vernal Pike Connector is $2,584. And then we have 3 bond payments that are made through Old National Wealth Management. For the 2015 bonds, the amount is $62,511.25. For the 2013 bonds, the amount is $3,650. And for the 2020 bonds, the amount is $63,006.25 for a total claim of $132,426.50. Any comments? Questions?
I would just comment that I received the bond payment claims today. The first thing I did was I checked it versus the annual report. And the annual report, the 2.25 cents were the only difference between that and the annual report. And I believe that's due to rounding within the report.
Right.
So it's 2 dimes and a nickel difference.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the claims?
I move to approve the claims.
I'll second.
A second, Ayers, Lisa.
Lisa, we have 2 seconds, so we're in pretty good shape. Jeff, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay. Our next agenda item are the minutes of the November 17th meeting. These minutes were set out by Jeff towards the end of last week, I think it was. Or
Yeah, something like that.
maybe on Monday. I've gone through them. I didn't have any changes or questions on them. Does anybody else have any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I didn't see anything.
Neither did I.
Okay,
No,
all right.
I'm over approval of the minutes, errors.
Iris
Second.
moves approval.
Second, Jim.
Jim moves seconds. Jeff, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
yes,
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes,
Commissioner McCarty, and feel free to abstain if you wish.
I watched that meeting on cats. I did. So I approve. Yes.
Motion is approved 5-0.
All right. Do we have anybody from the public who wishes to speak?
Well, we have no public, but Mr. Tucker has joined us since we started, so let the minutes show that.
Yes. So our RBB representative is here. Okay, hearing nothing and seeing no hands raised, we will move on. Staff updates. Lisa, you want to give us a start here?
Sure. So we'll be wrapping up probably construction season here. Still moving utilities. That's moving along at Smith Pike, Woodyard Road. So there's no really big changes with the projects. I do want to tell you though that I will be attending the conference with APAI tomorrow. Profile Parkway is receiving the 2021 Asphalt Pavement Association of Indiana Quality Award for new construction in the state of Indiana. So
Hey.
I will go up there at noon and get your award and bring it back. So, so yeah, it's, I want to say it's slow, but it's not really slow, but not a lot of construction. You know, the asphalt plant's closing, utility companies will be wrapping up. So yeah, not if you have a certain question about a certain project, I'd be happy to update something.
I'm interested in the right-of-way issue for the Vernal Pike extension. Where did we land on that?
So we gave a 30-day extension to Hightink and Central Supply because since we had changed the design so much, so they should be reaching the end of that 30-day extension. So we expect to hear from them anytime.
Okay. What about the swap?
The swap, I believe, is in Jeff's hands. Is it, Jeff? I believe.
Well, it's mine and planning's. I think we're working with planning and we're working with the developer to get that transfer happening. The developer is submitting a revised plan to planning to kind of look at those issues. I think that at the end of the day, I think the theory, in order not to jeopardize any of the federal funding, DLZ has recommended that we accept it as a donation, and then we work on relinquishing the right of way from our from the plat map.
Yeah, the one issue I had with it that I mentioned to Lisa is that we've made a substantial investment in their driveway,
right.
which
We
is
did.
constructed interstate or intersection standards. And I would hate to see us lose that investment somehow.
It's a big entryway. That's true. Because I was there several months ago.
Yeah, and I know they're doing work in that area now. I mean, that intersection is being used because they're hauling dirt back and forth between a couple of projects they got started there. I don't know how we would recover it, but I want to make sure that there's some recognition that they're getting more in terms of a driveway than we would normally provide with a project. I don't know.
And I think we addressed that with DLZ, did we not, Jeff? And they kind of explained the cost of the property and the real estate and everything, and and compared those costs. So I do believe we have the email to back that up.
Okay, yeah, we need to make sure there's something in writing somewhere that says, yes, this is a good deal.
No, we have that.
Or we're doing fair exchange. Okay, All right.
So Jeff Cockrell, I have you on here. I don't know if you saw, so we're trying to get, if you talk to the Kreiders, we're trying to get the Hart Strait Road project closed out. I have sent multiple emails to Jeff Kreider. Katie Stein has sent multiple emails. I think they're due maybe $60,000, but I believe we're over the time limit of closing out that bond. And I'm not familiar if we would be experiencing a penalty for going this far without closing it. But at this point, we're not sure what to do.
Well, I talked to Steve Kreider, right? I exchanged electronic communication with Steve Kreider, and I'm meeting with him tomorrow. I was going to follow up with that tomorrow. He said he was going to look into it, knowing the amount that I did not know it was quite 60,000, but I would guess that amount would get him motivated, as I know it would.
Oh, I think so.
I believe that. I believe that's what he told me was what was left on the table. But you know, I met with Katie the other day, and we're kind of at the point of giving them and I don't know if legally we can do this, giving them a drop dead date. Give us a bill, or we close it out, and we can't. I don't know. It's just we've been trying to get the last payment in for over a year.
That's too long.
Well, tell him we'll gladly take it as a contribution to our funds for the future.
Well, it just keeps it just keeps everybody's books open for that project when it should have been closed out way before now.
Right.
So thanks, Jeff. If you're talking to him tomorrow, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've mentioned it to him, and he said he's going to look into it. So I'll press him tomorrow.
Yeah,
Jeff,
I like the idea of a do it or die.
Right.
I think at this point you have to give him a date, because we're dealing with a bond here, and say, this is the date that we have to have that we're going to issue payment, or we're closing the account.
Right. Okay.
But that's really all I have on the projects. I can't think of anything in particular that's happening. So.
Okay. All right. Jeff, anything else from you?
Just real briefly, I don't think I mentioned it at last month's meeting, but Baxter Pharmaceuticals was asked for and was granted a tax abatement. I think most of if not all the investment is not going to be in the West Side TIF, but just south of it in their Van Buren property.
Oh,
but they do have a little piece in the West Side that may get a little bit of personal property investment. So I think that's important for you to know that we are getting some personal property investment. It doesn't affect the fund, because that's not a parcel we collect personal property on.
Right.
At this point, it's only the old GE site that we collect on personal property on. But I thought you guys would want to be aware of that.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I do have one more update on one of your projects. And
Sure.
The only reason why I forgot this, because it's kind of sat dormant for about 6 years. The Vernal Pike Trail extension. We finally reached a contract with Indiana Railroad. That's who we had been waiting on with design changes between our consultant and Indiana Railroad. They've accepted the plans, they've accepted the design. And on the first meeting in January, when the commissioners meet, I don't know if that's the 5th or the 12th, we have put that agreement and the permit to work within the right of way for that Vernal Pike Trail extension. So hopefully we can have that constructed in 2022 and finish that final piece from Detmer Park to Vernal Pike, or the Karst Trail.
Good. So the railroad is a slower business partner than Kreider by several years.
Without a doubt.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Any other staff updates or reports?
I think that's got it.
Okay. Comments from the commissioners. Jim, how about you first? Did you have anything?
Well, just one. As you all know, Eric Spoonmore is now with the chamber, and he was we had our advocacy team meeting Monday, and he was saying that the council had approved $30,000 for the BEDC from the county, but the commissioners hadn't moved on it yet. And he just wondered if that was going to be a problem with, I mean, obviously it won't happen right away, but with this road getting built, we're going to need them to be helping market the area that we're opening up. So Jeff, do you know if there's anything beyond just inertia about that, or do we need to do something to get it on their agenda, or?
I think we got to develop an MOU, and I think that appropriation isn't even live until next year.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't an additional appropriation. That was part of the 2022 budget.
Budget.
Okay.
So they
Well,
can't
that
do
makes
it
sense.
until they have access to the money.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, no, just happy holidays to everybody.
Is there a
Thank you.
targeted area for that use of those funds?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, it's
Okay.
just, Jeff can speak better than me, but
I don't think, we haven't really talked about it a whole lot because it's not an active budget item at this
Right.
point.
Okay.
I think the concept behind it was much more with helping the general obligations of the BEDC than any kind of targeted project. Although
Okay.
the structure of the agreements, when we've looked at some of this, the city has had agreements with the BEDC for
Right.
quite a while, and so they typically will have a kind of a general section, and then maybe one or two projects that they will look at and focus on. So we may
Okay.
structure it. I imagine we'd structure it a lot like what's currently utilized by the city.
Right. Hasn't the county done some BEDC funding before?
I thought so.
Not very recently. I know when I was on the commissioners, there was in the beginning when I was on the commissioners, but later on, the commissioners and our council wanted to put any money there at all. So
Okay.
I think it's been done before, but not in recent times that I can remember. I may be wrong.
Okay.
Jeff?
Well, I think both the city or the county council and the commissioners have pay for a seat on the board, or I'm
Right.
not sure
That's
exactly
right.
the right term there. So there's
No, it's
always been some
board.
funding go there, but this is a different focus than anything that's happened in the last 15 years.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay. I thought once Matt Wysocki left the county and we quit having a development function in the county government, that we were sort of contracting with the BEDC for that. It's not
Well,
the
I
case.
tell you, Jim, I tried very, very hard, and I got a lot of stonewalling for quite a while until I finally got them to agree that at least we have somebody sitting on the table from the county rather than just that I attend as an interested person, because that was a problem after he left. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Iris, do you have any more comments for today?
I don't think so. I think I'm all set for the moment. I think I did my bit.
Okay. Lisa Abbott?
Just one thing. So I had sent Jeff and the commissioners an email a couple weeks ago, week or so ago, saying that I wasn't going to seek to renew my term next year. I don't know if you guys heard, but yesterday the Indiana Uplands was allocated $30 million from the Indiana
Wow.
Ready program. So I'm going to be a little busy. So I thought that maybe they could, that they should find somebody who has maybe more time to dedicate to this. However, I did say in my email that I'm very interested in still moving forward with the residential TIF, and that I would be happy to help with that in any way that I can. Because I think that's going to be really important to the community. But it's been a pleasure the last 2 years to work with you guys. And I also did say that I would continue to serve until they find a replacement for me. And I have not received an email from Jeff saying that I've been replaced. So I thought I would tell you this now in case it happens before next month.
No.
And
Jeff, delay.
so anyway, but you know, thank you. It's been joyful, and happy holidays.
Well, you've been a great input.
You've been great. Maybe we can subcontract to the railroad.
Right. Well, Lisa, I hope you stay involved at least and follow what we're doing, because you've been very invaluable in what we've been up to this last few months.
I would be happy to help any way that I can. I just didn't feel like with everything else that was kind of coming down the pike that I was going to be able to really commit. And I didn't want to go 3 months into 2022 and then call Jeff and say, I really just don't have time for this. Since my term ended at the end of this year, I thought, you know, this is probably a good time for a transition, and we'll make the transition. I will continue to do this you know, until they find somebody else. But I have a feeling Tina's going to have more than one or two things for me to do next month. So
I'm sure.
Starting next month. So anyway, this just seemed like a good time for me to make that decision, but I'll miss you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. You've been great.
Very much. Your experience in housing has been very valuable to us.
Yeah.
And I'm
You
still
can't
here.
expect to hear from us about that issue.
Yeah, and I would be happy to do that. And you know, if you guys want me to pop into a meeting, I'd be happy to do that. I just didn't want to fall down on my responsibilities.
Okay.
I hear you.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, Colin, do you have any introductory comments or?
Sure, of course, Lisa Abbott would leave as I get here. Of course,
I didn't know that you were the new person until you literally popped on today. So there you go.
That's right.
That's a great reason. No, we've had good discussion about housing and broadband, and you know, as being Executive VP of Smithville Communications, and I know a little bit about infrastructure and a little bit about railroads and how they can delay projects as well. So I'm glad to be here, as I said earlier, and I'm honored to serve. And I put the interest of the county and the area we live in first and foremost, because it makes us all better. So I'm glad to have this opportunity. Looking forward to it.
Glad to have you on board.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's see. I have a something for you, kind of a related to our redevelopment issues here. I also serve on the South Central Regional Sewer District Board.
Oh yeah, right.
Which has a facility down in Lawrence County. And we have worked out an arrangement with the Redevelopment Commission of Lawrence County to use some TIF funding that they have to pay for the administrative and management services of the South Central or the Southern Indiana Development Corporation to deal with our new waste treatment plant, which is going in the Briarwood neighborhood just south of Monroe County, where the intersection is there on 37. We have a sewage treatment plant in that area, serving the businesses around the intersection and residential neighborhoods in that area. And we got a nice grant from the state of Indiana for this plant replacement, but the cost kept escalating, and we were looking for a partner to help. And the Lawrence County Redevelopment Commission stepped forward to help us out to the tune of $56,000 to pay for the SIDC contract. So that was another example of Redevelopment Commission efforts working cooperatively to achieve a project which was desperately needed in that case. And certainly my experience here in Monroe County on the Redevelopment Commission helped in understanding what they wanted to do and how they had to function to make it work. So I thought you might be interested to hear that kind of thing was going on.
I have one more thing to add, because I went to a meeting in Owen County that I thought was interesting. The Owen County Redevelopment Commission and the Town of Spencer's Redevelopment Commission had a joint RDC meeting to talk about ARPA and infrastructure, which I thought was really interesting. The way for them to handle it. So I thought it was kind of cool. I'd never seen that before. I'd never even heard of that before, but I thought it was neat.
But I think that when organizations work together, they get a lot more done than if they operate independently, especially in the government funding areas. That it's much easier to put pieces together to make a whole pie than it is to try and cut the pie or make the pie your whole pie yourself.
Well, in the past, the commissioners have made some efforts to try to get people interested in it. So it depends on who our commissioners were and so on. But having people involved on the sewer districts and the area RDCs is very important. And working together, as Lisa said, is even more important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. With that, has anybody else got anything for the meeting? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Eris.
Second.
Lisa seconds. I think with that, we are adjourned. Jeff, thank you very much for your assistance today.
Have a
Happy
great
holidays.
Holidays, everybody.
Have a good holiday,
Happy
people.
holidays.
Bye-bye.